Fat Thursday is the final Thursday before Lent, which is one of the last opportunities for feasting before the fasting period starts, which then runs until Easter. Many Christian communities will be cooking up a nice feast on this day, and in Poland, they like to make deep-fried donuts filled with jam for this occasion. And that is what we're making today. So let's get right to it. Let me show you how it's done so you can make yours. Starting with the ingredients, we'll need some white bread flour, milk, an egg, butter, yeast, salt, sugar, vanilla paste, some rum, which is optional, and we will need some jam for filling. I'm using strawberry jam, but you can use any jam that you like. Or you can fill your donuts with something else, like custard perhaps. When it comes to the equipment, we'll need a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe, a piping bag for filling the donuts with, a pan for frying, and something that we can use for fishing the donuts out of the oil with. A slotted metal spoon will work great for this. I will use a deep tray and my cooling rack for draining the donuts after they come out the oil. You could also just drop them on a bunch of kitchen roll instead. We want a neutral tasting oil for frying. I will use sunflower oil, but you can use vegetable oil, it is up to you. To make it easier to fill the donuts, I'll be using my nozzle in the piping bag. If you don't have one of these, don't worry, you can still fill your donuts without it. But if you are using a nozzle, make sure to twist up the piping bag and stick it inside it so that the jam doesn't come out. I'm filling up my piping bag now, then I'm going to tie it up and leave it in the fridge. I don't want the jam to be too runny. Placing it in the fridge to cool down will set it. That'll make our life easier once we go to fill the donuts later. Okay, on to the dough. My kitchen was around 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. I wanted to make my dough slightly warmer this time so it rises faster. So I'm using slightly warmer milk this time. To make the dough, in a large bowl, combine the milk, the yeast, the salt, the sugar, the rum, the egg, the melted butter, and the vanilla. Then mix it all to dissolve the salt and sugar completely before adding the final ingredient, the white bread flour. Then grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. This is not the first time we're making donuts on this channel. There are at least 3 other recipes here, but this one is by far the quickest and simplest one. There is no messy kneading involved, and the dough will go from mixing to frying in about 2 hours. It'll be a perfect last minute treat, because you can whip these bad boys up at a moment's notice. This recipe makes 12 donuts. To change the quantity, simply multiply or divide all the ingredients. After mixing, the dough will be pretty loose and sticky, but that's normal, don't worry. It'll be nice and smooth soon enough. Wet your hands with water so the dough doesn't stick to them, and give the dough a fold whilst it's still up in the air before you place it down in a clean bowl. This will start building some tension, or make it nice and smooth. Now check the temperature. It turned out a little bit cooler than I expected, but that's okay. Bulk fermentation will still be quick at around 16 minutes, punctuated by 2 folds at 20-minute intervals. So cover up your dough, let it ferment for 20 minutes, and then give it its first fold. Lift it out of the bowl, and then fold the sides of the dough down, and then push them back up into the center. I like this folding method because it doesn't make a mess on the table. And it is very effective too. Once the dough ball is relatively tight, place it back into the bowl, cover it up, and let it ferment for another 20 minutes. After the second fermentation, give the dough the second fold. If it feels a little bit too sticky for you, you can dust your hands with flour, just like I'm doing here. After performing the second fold, place the dough back into the bowl, cover it up, and leave it to ferment for another 20 minutes to finish bulk fermentation. And from bulk fermentation, we go straight to final shaping. Dust the dough ball with flour, weigh it, and then divide it into 12 equal pieces. You could make larger donuts if you wanted to, but then they would take longer to fry, and you would need to adjust the temperature. Otherwise they might become too dark too soon. I think that this size is ideal. To shape the dough balls, flatten the dough, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until reach point where you started. Then flip the dough ball smooth side up, tighten it against the table, and that's your donut done. And now just repeat that 11 more times, or get someone to help you. They have to earn those donuts somehow, right? I lined my baking tray with some cling film, and then I greased the cling film with some oil to prevent the dough balls from sticking. This will make my job a lot easier come frying time. They are ready for the final proof now. Cover them up, leave them to rise for about 1 hour. Once they have grown to twice their size, they are ready for the oil. Be sure to preheat the oil towards the end of final proofing. It needs to be between 160 to 170 degrees Celsius or 320 to 340 Fahrenheit. And you want to keep it at that temperature. Obviously when you place the donuts in the oil, it will cool down a little bit. So you might want to turn the heat up for a little while after placing the dough balls in the oil. They'll take around 5 minutes to fully cook. To make them fry evenly, you want to flip them around after every minute or so. Chopsticks are the perfect tool for this job. Once they're all nicely golden brown, they're ready. So remove them from the oil, let them drain on a rack or kitchen paper, whatever have you. You see that bubbly crust? That's thanks to the rum. I quite like that look. Leave the donuts to cool down completely before filling them. And once again the chopstick will come in handy. I especially like these tapered chopsticks. First I make the hole with the thin end, then I flip the chopstick around and make the hole bigger using the thicker end. Now stick the nozzle in and give it a quick squeeze. And to finish it all off, dust the donut with some icing sugar. Alternatively, you could glaze your donuts. You'll find a guide for that in my previous donut video. If you ever can't find a specific recipe on my channel, go to the YouTube search bar and type in my channel name followed by the bread that you're looking for and it will show up. But there you go. That's how you make ultra soft, quick, simple donuts for Fat Thursday or any other day for that matter.